Hey there, this is Matthew Jennings, and on this special episode of Peachjar Community Champions, we are here with one of our community champions in Maryland, FC Frederick, and we're talking soccer and athletics and social and emotional support for kiddos. Stick around. Bo, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me and talking through what I know that our team is very passionate about, and that is connecting students and youth to incredible enrichment opportunities like FC Frederick. Before we jump in here, I'd love for you to give me a little bit about yourself and the organization as a whole and what you're all about.
So FC Frederick has been in operation. We sort of tag our birth, our first starting year in 1989.
Wow, okay.
Now, that's a long time ago, and what we were then was really a team that was the first team in the area to travel outside of Frederick County and do some tournaments and that sort of thing. Cool. We have grown since then. We have a boys and a girls side. We have about anywhere between 700 and 800 travel players every year. We have recreational players, we have youth players, we run leagues, we run skills activities, and in Frederick County are probably understood as one of the strongest organizations that helps kids. Really, it's almost, I don't want to say cradle to grave, but cradle to college, help them pursue their interest in the game to the very highest level they can.
That's really awesome. What would you say kind of speaks to the heart of FC Frederick's mission when it comes to working with youth and in particular soccer? Or do we call it football? What do we call this?
Here, most of the time we call it soccer just to make sure there's no confusion. But I think I mentioned to you earlier, I just returned. We had one of our teams in Iceland. Yeah. Participating in a tournament, and there it was football.
It's football.
We go by both, but generally soccer here. So the mission basically is to help youth achieve whatever their abilities and our coaching and motivation can get them to achieve, right? Okay. To have them strive for their best and highest level. Along the way, learn a lot about themselves, about the game, about their teammates, about working with others to achieve goals and that sort of thing. But it's really about finding wherever the kids are and elevating what their experience is to whatever it could be, and that's different for every kid. So.
That's beautiful. And we hear a lot about team sports and it really helping cultivate lifelong lessons. What kind of things do you see come out of students that are participating in FC Frederick and in this kind of a sport? Friendships, teamwork. Can you talk to me about some of the social and emotional supports that come of this?
Of course, and I'm really glad you asked that question because oftentimes in club sports, particularly in some of the channels that we operate in, I mean, when kids have goals and aspirations of being collegiate players and pros and that sort of thing, you sometimes talk about those numbers like, oh, we've had over 800 kids on college rosters. Yeah. The reality of it is, yes, that's true. Yes, we're proud of that. But really what drives it is exactly what you brought up. Relationships, personal lessons. I mean, sports done well is sort of a crucible for society writ large, right? And what I mean done well, a coach that's informed and aware and is able to understand the journey that a player would have when they're from 7 and 8 years old to 18 or 19 years old, which there's all sorts of different stages kids go through, and what they're ready to receive information wise varies along that journey. So things like learning to be a leader, learning to be a follower when that's your role. Overcoming adversity, right? I mean, I would love it if all of our teams won all of their games. Our life would be easy, but of course it's not the case. So, and it's really the losses and the times when things aren't going great that really is the best opportunity to share lessons with the kids so that they can take that to wherever they go in life later.
And soccer can be a roller coaster emotionally. And so how do the coaches help students navigate some of those emotions that you had just mentioned?
One of the best ways, honestly, is stories. Stories about other players and other teams, other situations that have come up, and we've been here a long time, so we have a lot of stories, and that we can share. You know, I mean, we had a team recently had a very lopsided result against an absolutely excellent team.
Okay.
And what we really did was sort of broke it down. Said, look, you know, there were periods of that game, even though we lost by a lot, where we were the better team. Maybe it was only 5 or 6 minutes of that game, but what were we doing then that we might be able to expand and make that 5 or 6 minutes 10 or 15 minutes?
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
then we're starting to, you know, make some strides against a team like that. And then asking, you know, actually in a way being thankful that don't get, you know, maybe get mad a little bit, but be thankful that you had the opportunity to play against a team like that. And what can we learn? Oh, well, in this case, this team had a bunch of kids that were fantastic ball strikers, and they were hitting shots from 25, 30 yards out, right on frame, and our team is now motivated to be better ball strikers, right? So you can pick some things like that and also put it in context for them so they understand that an adverse result here or there is not determinative. It's what you learn from it that's really determinative, I think.
Those life lessons. That's beautiful. What about some of this kind of segues into a question I had coming into this interview with you? And do you have any personal stories about students that have gone on to play in college or beyond, or just come into the program and you've seen really grow as a result of the team kind of sport effort or the leadership effort? Anything that kind of stands out over the years? Some of this just sticks out in the mind.
You know, I probably should go to some of the amazing successes that we've had. Kids that, like I said, we've had over 200 kids go play Division I and over 800 at 1, 2, and 3 level. But I think probably it's the ones where the path is a little different. Let's say a kid who's working really hard, but maybe wasn't the recipient of all the athletic gifts in the world.
Right.
But their willingness to maximize everything they had and work really hard and be patient, and even though, let's say they're frustrated that year 1 they don't make the first team, or in year 2, year 3, but over time that effort and energy that they put in actually leads them, you know, to that goal. One of the guys is actually a Peachjar employee, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
One of our coaches, Colin Vitti, works for Peachjar, and actually how we found out about you guys and are excited to use you. But Colin's journey through the club was a little bit like that. He was very good. He wasn't the fastest guy in the world, and he found himself in an age group that had one of the best teams we've ever had in the club, and sort of breaking into that mix. But he stuck with it, and he eventually did make that group, and then had a great high school and college career and stuff like that. So it's stories like that I think I really like most, because it just shows perseverance and determination, and that if you really work hard, you can achieve your goals. That's
what we're about at Peachjar as well, and connecting students to those opportunities to develop that grit and that determination and the perseverance and the other things, the leadership qualities. I love what you said earlier about, you know, knowing when to follow. We know that students that are plugged into before and after school enrichment opportunities just do better throughout the rest of their life, not just in school, but just throughout the rest of their life in general. As you said, it's kind of a crucible for the rest of the world, which is beautiful. With that being said, how do you see something like soccer help students? You know, I mean, we know that there's more and more demands on students in school these days. I mean, they're learning more faster, at higher rates, more information is coming in. There's a lot of pressure and sometimes stress on students in school. How do you see soccer relating to students' academic well-being in school?
Another great question. So I wouldn't say that I would like to say, yes, if you play soccer, your life becomes amazing. You do well in school.
FC Frederick for more.
And specifically FC Frederick. But it's not that. I mean, in a way, it doesn't matter what the vehicle is. What matters is who's involved in the vehicle with you, right? Yeah. Who's the driver? Who's in the garage tuning up the team and different things like that. What I think is it helps you with skills like time management, for example, and that is transferable to things like college. So when you become when you commit to being a part of a team that's traveling around a lot, you have to learn to identify times of your day when you can actually focus on your grades and academics and that sort of thing. One of the things, again, about the organization is we understand deeply and care about the kids in the community and this connection between success and doing well in school. So we have coaches that regularly check in,
Cool.
We have relationships with the local high school coaches, and we check in with them, and they call us sometimes and say, hey, so-and-so seems to be struggling, and we reach out and try and figure out what's going on and, provide the support we can. So
that's really awesome. That was one of the questions I had, is how do you support students' academic journey as well? Because, we know that it's all interconnected. Absolutely. A student that's struggling in school is going to struggle in enrichment programs outside of school and vice versa. So that's kind of a beautiful connection that you have to the community. Do you have any other community partners that you work with, or relationships that you have in the community that are really strong that you think other organizations might value or benefit from kind of learning how they can also plug into certain areas of the community as well to strengthen their program?
So we have a very strong current and historical relationship with Frederick County Public Schools. The club, back in its early days, was actually founded by high school coaches, and I would say, 60% of our coaching staff either coaches a team or is somehow, or might be a teacher themselves, or that sort of thing. So, and we've had times where through some grant funding we would do some programming for at-risk students in the Frederick County Public Schools population. And for us, it's a back and forth. So there's things like access to fields that helps us, run our programs. But it's also knowing that we can pick up the phone and say, hey, something seems off.
Yeah.
Do you guys, what are the resources? Is there a school counselor that could, weigh in? And I would also say we do have some sports psychologists in our community that we have access to that do a great job for kids that are, having a little difficulty processing whatever it is. They get down on themselves too much when they play or different things. So, I would say those are some of the important ones. And then, sort of unrelated to tangentially related to the kids' well-being, we're doing some things like we've got a big soccer complex we're building, and we have a great community partner, big site development company called Pleasance Construction that is helping us build the fields. And so again, that's not working with kids directly, but the kids can't do anything without fields.
That's right.
It's all sort of part of a tapestry, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. And how important then, to kind of tag on to that a little bit, how important is it for parent and guardians to be involved in students' journeys through something like sports like this?
It's the most important thing. I'll tell you just kind of a small story. One of the skills that we ask kids to work on, it's called juggling. It's where a kid has the ball and keeps it in the air with his feet and his thighs, his shoulders, head, that sort of thing. And when kids learn to embrace that, what happens is they're able to get better with the game outside of just coming to our practice, right? So, but the hardest, and we reward them with patches. Like if you get 10 juggles, you get a patch, all the way up to, we have 5,000 juggling patches. But
that's fun.
The hardest patch is the 10 patch. Okay. So when I'm working with the younger kids and families, one of the things I tell them, I said, look, we're asking your kids to try something hard, and they're going to get frustrated. Yeah. What's going to make it even harder is if when they ask you maybe to come count their juggling, you say, I got to cook dinner, or I got a work project. I said, and I would say, and I say, look, think about it this way. If your kid came up to you, before bed and said, will you read me a book? Yeah. You would say, absolutely. In fact, you might even think you're not a good parent if you said no. Yeah. So what I would love for people to embrace is the idea that if a kid comes up and says, will you watch me juggle? You take your lawn chair out, and you go out and you watch and you count. And when they see that you're engaged, their interest, and all of a sudden it takes off. So
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, that's great. And what about on the sidelines during a game? Seems to get tense sometimes out there.
Yeah, it's one of the pieces of youth sports that we will always have to work on. Parents, they're generally all good people, but maybe they haven't all had some training in how their behavior on the sideline actually impacts their kids, and their kids interested in playing, and referees, the way referees are treated. So we have really developed over the years amazing culture. We do a lot of parent education. We show videos and things like, there's some wonderful videos out there of kids explaining what it feels like to them when their parent is yelling at them on the sideline or yelling at the referee and stuff like that. And those are some pretty powerful things. And then we just, as a policy, say, look, if you really can't get yourself under control, we're going to have to, ask you to move over the hill or something like that. But that, unfortunately, I don't think will ever go away. It's something you're always working on with.
But that's brilliant. I love that approach, and I really appreciate you saying that the impact that it has on the students on the field in some ways that can be very negative. That's really what we need to be focusing on in all of this, which is great.
Yeah, I agree.
Only a couple more questions for you. And you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if there might be another way that you might answer this, and that is, how do you all define success here?
You have to be very careful about it, because if you simply focus on something like wins and losses, number one, you're going to set yourself up for some disappointed kids and families, ultimately. But you're also going to miss most of the successes, right? So soccer, like other sports, in order to be good at it, you have to acquire certain skill sets, right?
Yep.
So just that piece on its own, acquiring the skill set, is a success, irrespective of whether or not it turns into winning games that particular season. It usually does eventually, right? But so, like I mentioned, we give things like patches out for kids that do juggling. We also do it for different skills shown on the field. So what we're trying to do there is not only motivate them to continue working with the ball, but to reward them in a way that's not just my team won, my team lost. Yeah. Right? So, I think things like that. I think pieces of the game where, whatever it is, you've seen something that could be better. And then again, whether or not the game is won or lost, look, our ball movement, our complete passing completion rate, whatever it is 20% better these games than it was, 2-3 weeks ago. So you give something to the kids that they can be proud of, even if the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect a big win.
Yeah, big win. Yeah. That's beautiful. Okay, just a couple more questions. What would you say to a parent or guardian not really sure if FC Frederick or even soccer is something their child might be passionate about, but they know that they want to plug them into something? What's your advice there?
I would say, be a good parent, do the research. Just like most parents aren't going to simply send their kids to a school without doing a little research. Is this a good school? Is this going to fit my kids' needs? You can do the same, and you should do the same things about youth sport, because again, done well, it can be transformative to your son or daughter. And many places do it well, but not all places, for different reasons. Sometimes it's maybe lack of resources, lack of education, lack of training, that sort of thing. But ask the questions. Send an email, but then maybe ask to, hey, could I have a Zoom meeting with you, and get to know the leadership of the club, maybe get to know the coaches, their approach to the game, to working with kids, and then be patient, because I talk to parents about this all the time and share some personal stories. They'll see their 6 or 7 year old kid out in the first practice, and they think the dandelions are the coolest thing and not the game and stuff like that. And so my wife and I collected 5 kids on our parenting journey, and they were all very different. When the light switch went off and all of a sudden they got it and wanted to work really hard, my oldest daughter doesn't really like the story, but I tell people that for the longest time she thought the game was running beside the person with the ball and looking over at her parents and smiling, like, "Could you please touch the ball?" But so patience, it may not click the first year or the second year. I had this parent that in one of the best situations, their daughter was very anxious when she was 5 years old, and the whole season they brought her to every single practice and let her watch. And every practice I'd say, "What do you think?" And she's like, not ready. The next year, took off, and she is just doing wonderful things right now. But many parents would be so frustrated that they would just, soccer's not for us, or sports aren't for us. We're going to find something else. So be patient, because it clicks for kids at different points in time.
That's awesome. And all right, how does FC Frederick get the word out?
Peachjar.
Hey.
Oh, you see what we did here? So one of the things, when you've been around as long as we have, there's certainly a word of mouth component for us.
Yep.
We have many siblings, the older one plays and the younger ones follow. But what we're having happen now, which is probably my favorite, is we have players who came through the club, like a Colin Vitti.
Yep.
Not to put pressure on him, but they are having kids now, right? And they're bringing their kids to the club.
That's
right?
awesome.
It's the circle of life kind of thing. So we have word of mouth. Obviously, the Peachjar process. Look, schools are invaluable as a way to put information into families' orbit that describes who you are and what you do. And for the longest time, we had to wrestle with generating a flyer, printing it out, taking it to the school, those types of things, and what we found is all of that is simplified and honestly more effective than what we were doing before, by using a platform like Peachjar that allows us to get that same information out digitally and to exactly the areas, schools, and what age of the schools, because we have programming that fits for high school kids and for younger kids, so we can target it and things like that. And then the normal social media, website, those sorts of things. So
you got to have that, Well, and before I ask my last question, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to share?
When I'm talking to parents these days, I've been doing this a long time. I'm a grandfather now, right?
Okay.
So I have 6 grandkids. So that breadth of experience, I've been doing it probably since I was 20. I played collegiately and some semi-pro and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Allows you, if people are willing to listen and believe you and not say, what you're talking about is old history, right? But kids are kind of the same, is, to be supportive, to be encouraging, to be patient. And here's one of the unfortunate things about youth sports, is there's a lot of sort of marketing out there where people are trying to prey on parents' fearfulness or desire to do the best for the kids, and saying, well, if you're not in that league or in that tournament or this whatever, you're not going to have XYZ happens. And it's really unfortunate, because young parents don't really have the mechanisms to filter that. So we try and be objective and sort of say, look, here's how it works. Your kid's doing great. They're on a good team with a good coach. And so anyway, patience, ask a lot of questions, and be informed.
So last question is, how do people get involved with FC Frederick?
Depending on what their interest and background is, if they have some background in the game and are interested in coaching,
cool.
You can go to our website, find my email, and email me. We have people reach out all the time, and if it works for their work schedule, and we have some full-time coaches, but our model really is to find folks that it's an avocation, not a vocation, meaning they're very good, they've got something else, but their passion is to do soccer, and then get them trained up and in the system and stuff like that. Now, if that's not their thing, and it's more maybe admin, or they just have time, we can find opportunities for them to help with us in different ways. So really just reach out through our website and let us know of your interest. That's awesome. And if a parent or guardian wants to sign a kiddo up, same thing? Yeah, the best way is to either, again, from our website, you can find our emails, but we also have news items there about programs you can sign up for. Ask your neighbors; they may know a little bit about us or whatever, and then we'll, as soon as we hear from you, we'll respond and get you going. That's awesome. Well, we'll link to all of that, of course, in the description. Bo, thank you very much for taking the time to do this with me. You are one of our community champions. We're really happy to have you as a partner out here, and anything we can do to help grow the futures of our beautiful world means a lot to us. So we appreciate you all doing the real hard work out there on the front lines with students and families every single day, and just happy to be a small component of making that successful. So, well, thanks for reaching out, give us the opportunity to share a little bit about the organization, and thanks for what you guys do. Like I said, you guys came up with an idea that makes the communication piece, getting the word out piece of what we do easier, and it's appreciated.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, brother.
Okay.
Hopefully you found this helpful. Be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. Reach out to FC Frederick. We will link to all of that in the description below. We'll see you later.